Welcome, Mendenhall Glacier enthusiasts, and thank you for sharing your time with this important process. My name is Brian Meisner, and I'm a member of the team developing alternatives for improvements at Mendenhall Glacier Recreation Area. The purpose of this slideshow is to introduce 3 new action alternatives that were developed in response to comments on the draft environmental impact statement last summer. This slideshow introduces alternatives 5, 6, and 7. All 7 alternatives, including the original 4, are described in the supplemental draft environmental impact statement issued in early January of this year. Today, I'll focus on the 3 new alternatives. If you missed the slideshow for the previous alternatives, it's still available online. Your comments can be shared online via the link on this slide or mailed to 8510 Mendenhall Loop Road, Juneau, Alaska, zip code 99801. The map on the right of this slide describes, in general, the types of actions that are being proposed. These include improved multi-use trails throughout the recreation area to ease congestion and improve visitor experience, improved parking and access at the West Glacier side, along Glacier Spur Road, and at the visitor center, campground improvements, including new public use cabins. In some alternatives, motorized boat use is contemplated on Mendenhall Lake, including docks and other infrastructure to support that function. And in the visitor center area, improvements are planned for the historic visitor center, as well as the new construction of a new welcome center. This slide shows the 3 overall maps for alternatives 5, 6, and 7. I'll focus first on the things that are similar between all 3 alternatives, then zoom in on some differences. West Glacier trails are similar for all 3 alternatives, but slightly refined versus earlier alternatives. Glacier Spur Road trailhead parking is similar for all 3 alternatives, except that the Dredge Lakes trailhead has been moved to the east side of the road and expanded to 20 stalls, whereas it was previously 12 stalls. One of the biggest differences you'll notice is the location of proposed docks and boat-related infrastructure. Alternative 5 proposes a dock and a boat ramp near the mouth of Steep Creek, plus a floating dock at the remote glacier location. Alternative 6 proposes no boat infrastructure because it doesn't propose motorized boats on the lake. Alternative 7 proposes a boat launch near the West Glacier trailhead, a dock near the mouth of Steep Creek, and a floating dock at the remote glacier location. The 3 alternatives differ in trails proposed in the Dredge Lakes area. Each shows a variation on a Dredge Lakes outer loop trail that, in combination with the proposed Lakeshore trail, creates a loop around the area. Alternatives 5 and 7 are almost identical to each other in formalizing several existing trails in the area. Alternative 6 proposes fewer formal trails to lessen conflict with hunting at Glacier Lake. The 3 new alternatives share an updated alignment for Lakeshore Trail. We've been calling the new alignment a High Point Trail because it takes advantage of existing topography to keep the trail above flood levels with much less fill than some previous alternatives. The new alignment sometimes follows the shore and at other times moves inland to follow high points. This creates portions of the lakeshore that can be enjoyed as part of the trail and other portions that are quiet and left for wildlife. The alignment includes a balance of elevated portions to allow the Dredge Lakes area to function as a floodplain during times of high water. Lakeshore Trail has slight variations in how it connects to trails near the visitor center. This is driven primarily by whether the alternative has a boat dock and the nature of that dock. In each alternative, Photo Point Trail is proposed as a balloon loop that eliminates an existing location where people often encounter bears and replaces it with an elevated crossing. Nugget Falls Trail, like previous alternatives, is proposed as a loop to ease congestion. Each alternative proposes improvements to Mendenhall Campground. Common to all 3 is an expansion to the Skaters Cabin parking lot. instead of the new parking lot in the campground proposed in earlier alternatives. Each alternative includes similar trail improvements to tie into Lakeshore Trail after it crosses Mendenhall River, and each proposes new public use cabins. Alternative 6 also proposes a new backpacker campsite at the east end of the new bridge over Mendenhall River. Each alternative proposes a realignment of Steep Creek to improve habitat for salmon and wildlife. This includes replacement of perched culverts where Glacier Spur Road crossed the creek and at 2 other locations. Each alternative also includes replacement of the Steep Creek Boardwalk with a widened and extended boardwalk to improve visitor experience. The primary difference between the alternatives occurs at the Glacier Road crossing. Unlike alternatives 2, 3, and 4, which proposed a bridge, the new alternatives propose a bottomless arch culvert for the creek, large enough to allow wildlife passage. Alternatives 5 and 7 propose a pedestrian crosswalk for visitors, and Alternative 6 proposes a separate box culvert for people. The different crossings result in differences to upstream trails. Alternatives 5 and 7 follow the alignment of the existing dike trail, whereas Alternative 6 continues a boardwalk up to a new outlook at Dipper Falls. Alternatives 5 and 7 also include an outlook at Dipper Falls that is accessed via an improved portion of the Trail of Time. That small portion of the Trail in Time is improved with a boardwalk to address erosion problems that are existing. Like previous alternatives, each new alternative proposes changes to management unit boundaries, specifically the extent of the visitor unit boundary. Alternatives 5 and 7 expand the visitor unit to include the lake and remote glacier location. All 3 alternatives expand the visitor center unit to include the new Lakeshore Trail. Some of the most significant changes in alternatives 5, 6, and 7 occur at the visitor center area in how the new welcome center and parking are located. Alternative 5 is a refinement of previous alternatives. Alternative 6 sets the Welcome Center into the hill southwest of the historic visitor center and moves commercial bus pickup and drop-off south of Steep Creek to the location of the existing bus staging lot. Visitors would transfer to an electric circulator bus at this location or would walk either the Steep Creek Trail or the Trail of Time to access the visitor center area. Alternative 7 locates both the Welcome Center and commercial vehicle pickup and drop-off south of Steep Creek. Zooming in, we can see how this changes the experience near the visitor center. While similar to other alternatives, the Welcome Center in Alternative 5 has been pulled back from the lake and the building broken into 2 parts to reduce its visual impact and produce a better connection to the Steep Creek Trail. The Welcome Center in Alternative 6 is set into the hill, which requires quite a bit of blasting, but leaves intact much of the existing panoramic view from the drop-off area. Alternative 7 includes a small visitor kiosk and expanded restrooms, but otherwise leaves the existing drop-off area relatively untouched. Passenger parking varies between the alternatives. Alternative 5 locates passenger parking to the east of the new bus drop-off area. Alternative 6 keeps the existing bus drop-off loop and a small parking area, but creates a new, larger parking lot in the location of the existing south lot. Alternative 7 simply expands the existing south parking lot. The alternatives vary significantly at the location of the existing commercial bus staging lot. Alternative 5 sees the lease construction at this location. 2/3 of the existing lot is paved, a small maintenance building constructed, entry access improved, and dedicated parking added for tour vans. Alternative 6 rethinks the entire area to accommodate commercial bus passenger transfers and adds a new loop for the circulator bus. Alternative 7 locates the Welcome Center at this location, in addition to all of the other functions I've just described. In response to comments received last summer, the supplemental draft environmental impact statement includes new renderings that view the alternatives from 3 locations. First, from the existing passenger drop-off, looking towards the glacier. Second, from the sledding hill, looking back toward the historic visitor center. And third, from the patio just outside the entry to the visitor center, looking west. This slide shows alternatives 2, 3, and 4, which were in the previous document, from these viewpoints. This slide shows alternative 5 from the 3 viewpoints. And this slide, alternative 6, with the Welcome Center moved into the hill from the 3 viewpoints. And finally, alternative 7, which expands the restrooms and has a small visitor kiosk, but otherwise doesn't do additional work at this location. Like previous schemes, the new alternatives propose increases to visitor capacity at Mendenhall, along with adaptive management that could incrementally bring capacity up to the levels shown here. Those capacities correspond to proposed commercial permit allocations that are also tied to adaptive management strategies. Please look to the draft supplemental EIS for more details on these strategies. Thank you for taking time to view this slideshow, and please refer to the supplemental draft EIS for a lot more detail, including an analysis of resource impacts for each alternative. We'd appreciate hearing your comments, so please submit them online or mail them in. I wish you all the best and have a great day.